your rising sign is the most personal placement in your birth chart. And when I'm talking about the rising sign, I'm talking about you and your overall personality. It's very much the energy that you give off when you go out, and it's also the energy people receive from you when they first meet you. It's one of the big three things to know about yourself, whatever your sun, moon, and rising sign is. But the reason why I say that the rising sign is the most personal placement is because it essentially lays out and sets the foundation and order for the rest of your birth chart. It will dictate what signs fall in what houses for you and how the planets are aspected. I also think it's just a really interesting way to look at yourself as an overall person and personality, really, from what were the planets doing at the exact moment that you were born. Very interesting. So this is just going to be a general look at a Capricorn rising. Now, Capricorn, this is the feminine cardinal earth sign that's ruled by Saturn. So that means for you guys, Capricorn risings, your chart ruler is Saturn. Now, Saturn is a more serious planet. This is the planet that, it represents boundaries, limits, restrictions. It's the time lord. Saturn is not in a rush, really. It's about the long haul gains in life. So this is your chart ruler. So you need to have a good look and be sure, where is Saturn in your chart? What sign? What house? How is it aspected? Because this will give you a deeper insight into how you're projecting your rising sign. And also take into consideration, if you've got any planets in your first house, it will modify the expression of your rising sign. And of course, it's going to completely depend on your own personal placements and where they are and how they're aspected. This is just going to be a general look at the Capricorn rising. So, introductions over. Let's have a look. Let's start off and look at the first house. Of course, the first house for you guys is Capricorn. And as I just said, your chart ruler is Saturn. So the vibe and energy that you're giving off when you meet people is actually that Saturn Capricorn energy. Now, this is also an earth sign in a fire house. And it's with it being a feminine sign, it's actually more of an introverted energy. So you're not usually going to be the loudest person in the room. Saturn is a more serious energy, so you actually might come across a little bit more serious and have a bit of a more harsher and realistic outlook view of the world itself. And with that Saturn energy there, because it does represent restrictions, you might not be the easiest person to read straight away when people first meet you, because you don't give all of that away. You've got a lot going on, as we'll look at in the rest of your chart, but from an immediate meeting with somebody, you might come across a little bit more quiet. Now, with, of course, this being Earth, this is the cardinal Earth sign. Earth is a very grounded and calming energy, strong, sturdy, stable. That is the impression that you are giving off. You come across as consistent and trustworthy and reliable, and you're probably that type of person that likes to err on the side of caution slightly in life. This is practical earth. You like things to make sense. You like to be able to logically make sense of your environment and the things around you. Now, the Capricorn archetype, this tradition represents the 10th house, and that is all about public image, how we are seen socially, basically, our public image. And it's also a very hardworking, career-driven house. So with it being a cardinal rising that you've got, you're definitely seen as a driven person. You've actually got the cardinal signs on all of your angular houses, and the angular houses are the pillars. They are the foundations to your birth chart and the more prominent themes, and they're all cardinal. So you will be known as a driven, go-getter type person that likes to, go out and build, basically. But you're also concerned with your image. You are concerned with your image and how you are seen. So, you want to be seen as respectable. You want people to take you seriously. You might have that kind of law-abiding citizen sort of vibe about you that you give off, but it's a more sensible energy, because we are talking about Capricorn and Saturn. The sensibility, they are the definitions of sensibility. So there's some of the things that people basically first get from you when they meet you. You're also seen as quite organized and structured, and you in general prefer to have a plan in life, a plan of action, and know where you're going and know what you're building and who you're building with and what, where, when. You like to have that sort of structured plan, and it is a hard working energy as well. And because of the other placements, the other signs that are falling in houses for you across your chart, you definitely have a hard working nature. So you're the type of energy that come rain, come shine, no matter what's going on, really, you will get up, go out there and get things done. This is big boss CEO energy. We're talking about Capricorn here, so powerful rising to have. If you've watched any of my other rising videos by now, you know I like to jump around the houses a little bit and just mash together themes basically that I see across the chart. So it's not necessarily that I'm going to talk through the houses in order, but just in themes that I like to link. And keep in mind, it depends on where your own personal planets are, where your houses are falling, to how this is going to resonate. You know, you might need to check out the video before or after if you know the house, the sign of the house that I'm talking about doesn't apply to you. Check out the one before, check out the one after. Let's have a look at the third house. Third house for you guys is Pisces, and that is the feminine mutable water sign that's ruled by Jupiter and Neptune. Jupiter is all about wisdom, philosophy, expansion, higher knowledge. Neptune is about dreams, imaginations, illusions, delusions, dreams. I think I just said dreams, but you've got dreams twice. So we're mixing that energy into the third house of the thinking and communicate. This is a thinking and communicating house, all to do with local travel, siblings, neighborhood, communicating, because it's traditionally the house of Gemini where air sits. So having the mutable water sign in this house means that you've definitely got a mindset that comes from a place of emotions. You know, it's extremely intuitive actually to have this placement. You might find that when you're speaking with people, you feel what they're saying, you read through what they're saying, and you feel what they're saying. You know what's going on. And because, of course, this is the house connected with your local community and neighborhood. And Pisces is a very compassionate sign. You really care about where you want to live in a nice area, not necessarily a nice area, but you want to live in a nice community. You want to be around nice people. You want good for your community. It's the house of siblings. So with the Pisces here, you know, it is a sign that doesn't have any boundaries or anything like that. But, and again, as I said, compassionate. So you might have a really close relationship there with your siblings. When you're talking with people, you might be, you know, quite conscious of not hurting their feelings. You know, you might want to say something, but you won't say something if you know it's going to hurt that person. And you can have quite an open communication style when you are talking with somebody. And we are talking about that Jupiter wisdom there. So the topics of interest that you might be interested in talking about, you could be quite a spiritually inclined person or interested in the wider, more out there topics, and enjoy being able to communicate with someone who can talk on a deep level about things. It's interesting because, you know, Mercury is actually classed as fallen in Pisces, and we're mixing the house of Mercury with Pisces here. So sometimes when you do communicate, you might feel that there's a bit of misunderstanding that goes on. People might not necessarily always get what you say, or you know, if you're depending on what placements you've got here and other aspects in your chart, you might just drop in some big wisdom into a conversation, or just a real out there statement makes people think, whoa, okay. You know, and because you know, this is the mutable water ruled by Jupiter and Neptune, so powerful manifestors. So I think with this placement, more than a lot of other signs that could fall into the third, you need to be careful of your thought, because I think you have the high abilities to manifest things into reality. The Neptune influence here means you might have experienced times where you kind of feel that people are trying to pull the wool over your eyes a little bit, or maybe take your kindness for a weakness, because you do have a self-sacrifice inside you and a lot of compassion, as I said. So make sure you're using your intuition to know, look, listen to people, go with what your gut's telling you. What do you feel they really mean? And know who's there to support you and know who is not there to support you. This is also the sign, of course, where we do touch upon the topic of drink and drugs and addictions, basically. So it could be that when you were growing up in your childhood, it is actually something you grew up around, you did see and was around drink or drugs, or someone who has an addiction issue. Or this is something actually that you might do to escape, really, to go into your thoughts properly. I'm not saying that everybody is, but it's just something I want to point out here, that you might turn to certain things to help you mentally cope. Let's have a look at the ninth house. Ninth house for you guys, you've got Virgo sitting there, and that is the feminine mutable earth sign that's ruled by Mercury. And this is sitting in the ninth house, which is the Sagittarius and Jupiter house, which is all about higher knowledge, higher learning, wisdom, philosophy, abundance, travel, religion, other cultures. So having that Mercury energy sitting in here, and the fact that it's mutable, we've got Virgo that's mutable sitting in the mutable house of Sag, and thinking and communicating. So you might have a busy mind, you know, your thoughts might be here, there, and everywhere, because like I just said, you've got your Pisces in your third, that's also mutable and immutable. So busy mindset, and Virgos are known to be a little bit of overthinkers, so you might critically think about things, and you like to really analyze detail. Now, because as well we've got the Mercury energy sitting here, and this is the house of higher learning, higher knowledge. This is why you might love to learn things, and in lifetime you enjoy learning higher knowledge topics and communicating about what you know and talking about other people who might have a similar belief system to you, because this is the house of religion and philosophy. So there could have been growing up certain belief systems sort of instilled on you, and when you're older, as you grow older, because the ninth house is the house of enlightenment. So when it gets to that stage for you in your journey in your life, you might want to pull apart everything that you did know, everything that you were taught, and think, well, do I follow that, or do I want to actually follow this one? What do I want to do? Now, because again, it's Mercury energy with this mixing with the higher education or higher fields, basically. There could have been a part of you in life that always wanted to achieve or become qualified in a field, whether you have or haven't, might be something you would want to do. And because it's Virgo, this could have been in a field something to do with health, physical, mental, emotional health, even spiritual health, because Virgos is spiritual healers, and we're talking about the ninth house, which is also spiritual. Because it's that Mercury energy, we could also be talking about someone who would be a fantastic writer, editor, journalist, even a really good critique. You'd be very good at critiquing something in writing. Anything like a dentist, surgeon, something that takes that sort of meticulous detail is the Virgo energy. Whatever energy you got sitting in your ninth house is the energy that you can learn from as well. So you guys actually do well from being around Virgo archetypes, someone who can get into the nitty gritty, maybe answer all the questions that you might have, know as much detail as you, and do have a flexible and adaptable mindset. But again, it is Earth, which deals with practical, logical facts. So you have to be just wary with this mix of placements, that when it comes to spiritual topics, it can't always be explained through facts. It can't always actually be proven. Sometimes it is what it is what it is. And you have to just, roll with that. I'm going to jump over to the 12th house now. 12th house, you've got sitting there Sagittarius. That is the male mutable fire sign that's ruled by Jupiter. And this is sitting in the 12th house. This is the unconscious, your subconscious thoughts you are not necessarily that aware of what's actually happening in the background. It's the house of the collective unconscious. So I think it's a very interesting way to kind of finish looking up at thinking and communicating in that sense from the unconscious thought view. And this is the first example in your chart where you've got fire sitting in a water house. Ooh. So bit of a sensitive spot that exists there for you, and that's not actually really that apparent when people first meet you, with your Capricorn rising Saturn energy that you're giving off, and Libra in your 10th, which is Venus Saturn energy again. So you come off very controlled, but you've got a deep, fiery, passionate side of you that definitely exists deep down. Because it is the male mutable fire. Sagittarius is a wild energy. Also gives you very much high intuition. Fire is intuitive as an element, as is water. They're intuitive in different ways, really, but it's still intuition. So it's kind of doubly intuitive here. And if we consider your Pisces in your 3rd, as I said, that's also a placement for high intuition. So honestly, follow your gut instincts and follow what your soul tells you. This is a very spiritual house too. 12th house Pisces is a spiritual house. So again, where you might have a more spiritually inclined side to you, and a wanting to understand that side of life. And it is that Jupiter energy. Jupiter rules Pisces, which is the 12th house, and it also rules Sagittarius, and you've got Sagittarius sitting in here. So it is that wiser, deep energy that exists within. Because this is the house of the unconscious thoughts, the unconscious mind, we're mixing Sagittarius energy here. That fire and that mutable fire of Sagittarius might be pushing you out to take risks, to go out there, explore, take an adventure, do something you wouldn't usually do, which can be a little bit conflicting with, your Saturn Capricorn rising energy that you're identifying with. But a side of you that wants to kind of break free from any sort of restriction and just be free and have lots of independence. The number one trait for Sagittarius actually is, well, not the number one, but a trait of Sagittarius is being very blunt and honest. And because this energy is sitting in your hidden house of, unconscious thoughts. It is also a hidden house. You might not actually be so forthcoming with what it is that you want to say when it comes to speaking the truth. It doesn't come out that easily unless you're around those people that you know. Sagittarius is also, you know, very jokey energy. You know, they like to have fun, like to tell a joke, like to have a laugh, and all of that. So again, with your rising and your 10th house, how you're seen, it's a more serious energy. But when you're around people that you know, when you're in your comfort zone, that's definitely when your more jokey side comes out, and when what you really think comes out. Like when you get a Cap rising by themselves and they're comfortable with you, they are going to let rip on exactly how they're actually feeling. And you might be surprised at the words of choice of words that they might use, because they can have quite cutting words. This could also be one of the reasons why you've got that sort of self-sacrificing nature here, because it's Jupiter energy in the house of Jupiter. Self-sacrificing. Sagittarius is generous, so you do kind of go out your way for people. Your Pisces in the third, you've got compassion. You know, you will help somebody, definitely, especially if it's the person that you love. You'll be someone's absolute rock. One thing for Cat risings, you might just need to let off some steam. Doing something physical for you guys, physical action helps release the mental. So going off doing something, go and do something impulsive, and it will just make you feel alive. Let's look at the fifth house. Fifth house, you've got Taurus sitting there, and that is the feminine fixed earth sign that's ruled by Venus. And the fifth house is traditionally the house of Leo, which is all about children, dating, romance. It's the house of fun, expression, creativity. So we're mixing the Venus energy here. So when it comes to children, for example, you're probably always well received by children. Children just love your energy because it's Venus that we're talking about. And you're also probably seen as someone who really loves their children too, or somebody who wants to build and have a family, very dedicated to their children and to their family, because it is a family orientated sign, Taurus. Because we're talking about the Venus energy here. Venus is an indicator of how we can earn our money in our chart. So, you know, obviously if you haven't got your Venus here, you need to look where your Venus is. But let's just, for the purpose of this video, say you've got your Venus here, because that's the energy that I'm talking about, Taurus. It could be the fact that whatever you've got a creative side to you, basically. Venus mixing with the creative, you've got a creative side to you. And it could be that your creative hobbies that you do, you could turn into money. You could make it into a side hustle and turn basically one of your passions that you like expressing, something you like doing, into an actual business of some sort, or a way to make money. And it is the sign of beauty and overindulgence, really, Venus. So you could have some overindulgent tendencies here, and maybe some impulsive tendencies when it comes just to spending. We're mixing Venus energy with the Leo here, so you might be always looking online like, I want this, I want that, like, and you want things to look a certain way. Not that you buy it, not in a materialistic way, just you like to have nice stuff. Now, of course, this is also the house of fun. So with Venus here, I keep saying it, but you might really like to enjoy going out. Taurus is a sign that definitely has that balance of work hard and play hard. So you do like to go out and have a good time. A good time for you might be going out and having some nice food, good company, good chats, good vibes, basically. And you know, Tauruses do like to relax as well. So sometimes when you're downtime, you might just want to chill and do nothing. But being outdoors would be so good for you guys with this placement. Like when you want to relieve in some way and have a bit of fun, like being outside, being in nature, being in the outdoors, kind of makes you feel better and is a refreshing energy for you. This is also the house of, you know, casual dating, really, and romance. But Taurus is a slower energy. So in this area of life, I don't think you're in a rush to be with somebody. You'd rather bide your time for somebody that you actually want to kind of partner up with, because in this area of life of casual dating, like, you are looking at potential spouses, like, but what can you bring to me? What can you bring to the table? You're looking for someone that's where you can build, have stability, have trust. You need a loyal partner, definitely, with your house placements, your signs, and how the signs are falling in the houses for you. Trust is a big thing, basically, for you guys, but also someone that is in touch with their emotions, because you know, your seventh house, which is the house of relationships, you've got Cancer sitting there, which is moon ruled, and the moon is also exalted in Taurus, and this is sitting in your fifth house of casual dating. So you also need someone who definitely is in touch with their emotions, because as we'll discuss as we get through the chart, emotions are not necessarily your forte. You like something you like to keep hidden, really, and there's reasons why. So partner up with somebody who is more emotionally out there is good for you. Let's have a look at the 11th house now, and you've got Pluto sitting there. So that is the feminine fixed water sign that's ruled by Mars and co-rules by Pluto, and this is sitting in the 11th, which is traditionally the house of Aquarius. It's an air sign, very intelligent, thinking, communicating, but this house is about, you know, public connections, basically your friendships, social connections, and groups. So it's an interesting combination having these two here. So when it comes to your friendships, obviously, first and foremost, you're a very loyal friend. You're known to be a very loyal friend, and you really need a loyal friend back. It takes you years to actually build up trust in terms of a friendship, and probably have had those couple of good friends around you for years, basically, that you can trust. It's obviously quite a magnetic energy, the Scorpio, so you might always have people trying to potentially even latch on to you and become your friend, but who you choose to be friends with is, it's quite specific, really. We are talking about, this is the fixed water sign, and this is in the fixed house of Aquarius. So there's definitely a part of you, Capricorn Risings, where you're very strong and sturdy, having the fixed with the fixed. You've got a strong core, because this is the house of like public connections, and Scorpio, you know, Scorpio is notoriously secretive and private as a archetype, and mixing that here, you could be part of some sort of taboo group or a society, or take part in things that are in the dark, basically, and not in the light. Or because we're considering the house of friendships, it could actually be that it's your friends. You know people who are into some not questionable, but they're into some things that are not as open. They're more taboo topics. You just might know people. The friends that you keep might be a little bit lethal, actually, have a bit of a lethal side of them with the Scorpio energy here. But you know someone who can get something done, not on the system, if you know what I'm saying. You know someone who knows someone who could get something done. I think you could potentially have those sorts of vibes. Scorpio, of course, is a sexual energy, represents the genitals. You would look more to the 8th house, of course, for that, but because this sign is here, could be the type of person that might end up having sex with your friends, or more so that relationships might blossom from friendships. You need to feel a sort of friendship connection to move on and blossom into a relationship. With this being the house of Aquarius, it's all about technology as well, and having Mars and current Pluto energy here, just a love for technology. You probably love in this day and age, you can just call, text, all types of social media that allows you to keep in touch with people, but without necessarily having to always be around physically other people. There is a part of you that you do like to keep hidden. You've definitely got private traits, particularly with your emotions, and connecting through technology allows you to hide maybe sometimes how you're really feeling. Because this is Mars energy here as well, you know, you could have really quite strong views in the collective and on the world and how it should be, or you might even lead some sort of group. You might actually be the leader of some sort of group of change. It could be, you know, for example, environmental change. People might have really, really strong group views on that and want to start a group or lead a group to do with that. Because this is the water as well. One thing I noticed for you guys is that water as a theme I'm seeing in your chart is something that you need when it comes to your relationships, looking at your 7th house and your 11th house, and also considering your 3rd house of thinking. It's it's water dominated, so it's the emotion and the deep connections that you're looking for in this lifetime. If you like what I'm saying so far, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe, and of course click the bell so you can come with me on my astro journey and keep up to date whenever I post a new video. Let's have a look at the 7th house now. 7th house for you guys is Cancer. Now, that is the cardinal feminine water sign that's ruled by the moon, and the 7th house, this is the house of relationships, and not just relationships with a partner, but just long-term connections that you can form. So friendships, business partners, contract partners, long-term, basically. So I'm not saying also that just because you've got Cancer sitting here that you can only be with a Cancer sun moon archetype or whatever. No, but definitely someone who can display and access that moon energy. As we discussed in Taurus in your 5th, the moon's exalted there. It's something that you need, someone who can get through to that moon energy. And basically you do very well with Cancer archetype. With this sign falling in your descendant house shows that you're really here trying to connect on an emotional level, much deeper than the surface. You need people who can just feel what's going on and know what's going on without you always having to say. Someone that you can actually build a close emotional bond with, someone who can provide you emotional support, a family orientated person who is all about their family and building, like, 'cause this is what you want to do, you want to be building, and ideally with a significant other. But yeah, somebody who enjoys cooking, and has the same sort of goals that you do, and driven. And because the Cancerian archetype of people that display these traits are very much more in touch with their emotions, which, as I said, is something you do kind of struggle with sometimes, or you fiery temperament comes out with your emotions. And you can, in turn, actually, you can help Cancer archetypes realize that not everything has to be led from an emotional point of view, and not every single feeling you feel needs to be expressed. So it's a really complementing energy together. But in your close relationships, you are kind of seeking that nurture and care, that someone can show you that they do care and they do love you, because you have this big side of you that will show that, and you're very good at caring for people. Now, because this is Cancer energy and we're talking about the moon is fast, it's fluctuating energy. So you might have attracted people that do have temperamental qualities, a bit moody occasionally, and a little bit needy, basically. There might be a little bit of a needy person, and you secretly kind of like that, even though you might act like, oh no, I don't need needy people. I think you might actually quite like it, because you can take care of them, or it could be that you actually deep down might be the more needier person in a relationship. But there's just a sense of codependency vibes here. You are looking for a someone. And when it comes to like contract partners, business partners, things like that, you might really want to build up that trust with somebody, or you might work with your family directly, basically. But there has to be a good connection for you to be able to work with someone that you have to feel connected. Let's have a look now at the fourth house. You've got Aries sitting there, and that is the cardinal male fire sign that's ruled by Mars. And this is sitting in the fourth house, and the fourth house is a watery house. It's traditionally the house of Cancer, a place of deep emotions, where our emotions run deep. It's the care we receive from our mother, the nurture we received as a child growing up. It's the house of family, roots, traditions, ancestors, things of that nature. So again, it's a second example of having fire in a water house for you guys in your chart, and which gives you the fire as an element is expressive. Fire is expressive as an element, and putting that expression into this private emotional house gives you this level of privacy that you feel over your emotions, basically. And when it comes to revealing how you're really feeling, but deep down you have got an unsuspecting fiery side that doesn't necessarily come out unless you're around those people of comforts, especially with Aries Mars energy here. As I said with Sag, when you're around your people, the truth comes out how you feel it. Aries and Mars, these are hot fiery planets that we're talking about. So mixing this in with the house of home, growing up you might have been in a louder environment where it was a little bit more chaotic. Even there's potential there for combative situations, really, or argumentative situations. In some extreme cases, you may even have seen physical violence. But Mars, being it's such a strong warrior energy, Mars is ready to fight and then stand up for what it believes in and to do what it wants. So you might actually be really protective of your family. You are so protective of your family, and a strong family defender, basically. Or you might take the lead when it comes to family events, like you sort out all the activities, XYZ, things of that nature. And because it is the house of the mother, you could probably had more of a fiery mother potentially with this placement, or a mother that really truly taught you to be independent, and that if you want something, get up, get out, go and work it. Like, don't sit there crying about it, what you're going to do about it. It's cardinal, so it's fire, it's the action. Aries and Mars is a super independent energy, so when it comes to your emotions, you might feel as though you like to deal with things by yourself. You might literally need time alone by yourself in order to process things, be at home alone so you can process your emotions. But there's a sense of individuality and pride with how you feel, which is why you are protective over them. And again, one of the reasons why water is beneficial for you in terms of relationships, people who can maybe make you feel as though you can open up emotionally, because it's not necessarily something you like to do. It's not your strong point, shall we say. Let's have a look now at how you guys might be with sort of money, how you build, how you share money with others, and your career. Let's start with the second house. You've got Aquarius sitting there. So that is the male air fixed sign that's ruled by Saturn and co-ruled by Uranus. And this is sitting in the second house, which is traditionally the house of Taurus, which is all about values, possessions, and kind of what and how you build in this lifetime. So because again, we've got a fixed sign in a fixed house here, you guys have got that sort of stronger core side to your personality, really, and definitely some stubborn tendencies there. This is also the house of values, so you'll have a value in Aquarius type things, and you know, the Aquarius archetype is all about humanity, higher knowledge, helping the community, breaking traditions, basically freedom, friends. It might be a case in some examples where your friends are more like your family than your actual family. You love your friends and being part of a group. You might have quite unorthodox ways, really, of gaining stability in this lifetime. You know, with Aquarius here, you can definitely have more than one ways of making money and more than one ways of gaining an income. And with that Uranus twist that can fall here in this house, you know, you might see things, peculiar, unique ways of basically being able to make money that can help you build. And it is that Saturn energy again that we're talking about that's sitting here. So you might not necessarily be emotionally attached to your money like that, like some people are really emotionally attached to the money. You might not be, and there might be a part of you that wants to donate some money for a charity or for something to help somebody else. Or you know, when it comes to your friends, you'll definitely help a friend in need. When it comes to that, it's not necessarily a selfish energy when it comes to what's yours. Saturn does have that sort of rational approach, you know, to money, and you know that money's not the be all and end all, but more as you see it as a tool that you need a certain amount of things. If you want to do certain things in life, you kind of see it as a tool to help you through life, if that makes sense. Again, Aquarius is a sign of technology. We discussed that with your 11th house. We're mixing that now with Venus energy in Taurus here. So it could very much be again that you have a love for technology. You love in this day and age what we can do and how we can connect with other people. The Aquarius archetype is also very much independence. They love their independence and are freedom lovers. So it definitely could be with this placement that you could be some sort of entrepreneur and build a business, because the Aquarius archetype can have visions that other people might not see. This is the sign that can gather information from the ether and share it with humanity. So you might have these crazy visions to other people that you know might work, it's just they can't see it in their future. This is a future orientated archetype. So you might be able to build something unique, original, and independent to yourself. Let's have a look at the 8th house now. 8th house, you've got Leo sitting there, and that is the male fixed fire sign that's ruled by the sun. And the 8th house, this is a very, very private house. Again, it's a very watery house. It's traditionally the house of Scorpio, so it's where emotions run really deep. But it's also the house of shared finances, shared resources, deep transformation and crisis, death and rebirth, sex, taboo topics are all covered by this house. So mixing Leo in here, we're talking about the sun energy, and it's also another example of fire in a water house for you guys, which is why you do have a sensitive spot. But it's interesting here with this placement because the sun is literally the sign of expression. You know, it rules Leo, the 5th house of expression, and it exalts in the 1st house of identity. The sun wants to be seen. The fire element, as I already said, is also expressive, and we're putting double expression energy into a very private and hidden house. So again, one of the reasons why you might be a little bit more private and reserved when it comes particularly to doing with your emotions and letting those out to people. You may have quite an interest really in taboo topics, things that are a little bit more out there, like astrology, occult knowledge, magic. You might have a love for like scary films. And you know, Leo's is typically a very, very jokey energy, but it's sitting in this house, which I guess has slightly darker connotations to it. So maybe just a slightly darker sense of humor basically that you might have there. But definitely again, a theme that we're seeing across your chart is that you guys value your privacy very much, and for you to be able to get close to someone, it's a trust process you've got to build and work to be with that person. because this is the house of sex, so you might actually prefer somebody who, I guess, displays more Leo type qualities in this area, somebody who is a little bit more flamboyant. But because it's fixed in a fix, you definitely want someone who is loyal. Basically, loyalty is key. And also, if you think about it, Leo is the traditional ruler of the fifth house, which is also about casual dating and sex, and you put in that energy into the eighth house, which is the house of sex. So it is a prominent part for you. Sex is important when it comes to your connection with your partner. And you're definitely looking for somebody you can be free with, have fun with, let loose, maybe even dress up a little bit, a bit of role play, just think a little bit out there. But trust is a key theme when it comes to Capricorn risings and a partner, and being able to open up sexually to them. The sun is a singular energy. The sun is about I am. It's about the self. It represents self-identity and expression. And this is sitting in the house of shared resources with other people. So there is that side to you where you do have that generous side. You may be one of those people that has that generous side when it comes to sharing your resources and finances with somebody else. Or it could also play out the fact that you might like to be the more dominating person when you're happy to share the finances, etc., but you would rather be in control of the allocation of what that looks like. And with it being the house of deep transformation and deep crises, it might be for you guys, Capricorn risings, when something does hit, when that a transformational period or a crisis hits, it's a big one. It's not a little event. It's usually a big life-changing event, might even seem quite dramatic, and you have to, because it's the fire, you're going to need to have some action. You're going to have to take action to get yourself out of that situation. And because it's fire, this is Leo's fierce, this is fierce, this is fixed fire. So just know when a transformational period or moment of crisis hits, you've got that Leo fire energy sitting there that will help you come out on top, help you come out fighting. And as I said, because it's the fire, you might need action. It's Leo, you might need to spend to change. You might have to spend money to change your situation, to change your surroundings, but you will come out on top. And because it's fixed in a fix, you've just got that high level of endurance and other people ready to put up with and go through a transformational crisis period. Let's have a look now at your sixth house. You've got Gemini sitting there, and that is the male mutable air sign that's ruled by Mercury. And this is sitting in the sixth house that traditionally belongs to Virgo, which is all about your day-to-day routine, day-to-day work, health, service. And Mercury, interestingly, also is at home and exalted in the sign of Virgo. So you're mixing like double Mercury energy here, really. But when it comes to your day-to-day routine, because Mercury is a fast energy, it's active. So you like to be out and about, probably very much in your local neighbourhood. You're probably the type of person that likes to pop here, there and everywhere. And just go different places, maybe be off traveling around with your siblings, for example, or your cousins, things like that, but within the sort of local neighbourhood. It is a mutable energy in a mutable house, so there is potential here when it comes to the day-to-day routine that you could have some scatty tendencies. Maybe you might be that person that really struggles to stick to a schedule and get places on time, for example. But depending on your chart as a whole, and if you have got some sixth house energy, and if you've got some sixth house energy in there, you might be very, very good, and your day-to-day routine is an order and structure is of extreme importance to you. But this is the beauty of having to look at your individual chart. Gemini is a very communicative sign, and this is sitting in a very communicative house. So, day-to-day, your day-to-day routine, you like to be able to talk, chat to people. You might want to know the sort of latest gossip, basically, or the latest trends. Love the use of social media, always looking through, so you know basically exactly what's going on. Or just generally researching day-to-day. You like to just research and know what's going on and learn and broaden your mindset. Now, this is the house of your day-to-day work. So when it comes to your day-to-day work, you are ideally looking for something, I guess, that would allow you to have some independence and flexibility, because Gemini is a very independent and flexible and changeable sign, but something that gives you a little bit of freedom, but also allows you to think and communicate, because you do want to talk day to day, and probably prefer maybe working in a busier environment here. But it's a really good it's a really good energy to have in the sixth house, like keep you busy. And depending on other placements in your chart, you could be the type of person that might flit in and out of day-to-day role, day-to-day different jobs, until you find exactly what it is that you want to do, what you love, your Venus in the 10th. But something that just allows you to connect and communicate. And it's also the house of health. So, you know, just moving around is really good for you guys, and you know, going for a walk, a hike, maybe even a run. It will just doing something physical help you release mentally. And depends on your placements, you might have some sort of clean freak, actually obsessive tendencies, like a clean and clean environment. Let's have a look at the last house, guys. 10th house, you've got Libra sitting there. That is the male air cardinal sign that's ruled by Venus, and this is sitting in the 10th house, which is traditionally the house of Capricorn, which is your rising sign, which is all about your public image, your long-term career. It's another house you can look at to see how you're seen, really. And it's quite interesting because Saturn is actually, it's obviously your rules Capricorn, so it's your chart ruler, but Saturn is also exalted in the sign of Libra, so it's kind of double Saturn energy on both of your angulars. So again, while you give off that kind of, I guess, Saturn vibes, now Saturn is about, as we said, you know, law and order. So you come across as a very diplomatic person. You're seen as someone who's very fair, as a mediator. Really, you're not seen as someone who's necessarily a trouble starter, more somebody who is a peacemaker. You might be seen to sit on the fence a little bit there as well, actually, with this energy, because it's the Venus element that we need to look at, which is, of course, about relationships. And this is the house of public connections and public, how you're seen publicly. It could be, you know, friends in high places. You could be very well connected or just good at connecting other people, basically, in a public group setting. With this being a public social house as well, you probably like to socialize. You know, Gemini in the sixth, you like to be out and about, you like to connect and communicate with other people. But of course, this is also the career house, isn't it, mainly, that people look to this house for. And you've got that Saturn energy, as I said, exalted sitting here, and also Venus again is a money indicator. Saturn likes to be here in the 10th. So you're about your money, you're about building, basically, for the long term. And because of that mix of Saturn being about law, order and justice, and then you've got the Venus element, which is more about like the beauty and the arts and the more creative side, like the types of different career you could have. You would make a brilliant lawyer, judge, solicitor, some sort of mediator in terms of counselling, you know, marriage counsellor, things like that, or some sort of consultant. Or if you were more on the Venus side of it, you could be into the beauty and fashion industry, a fashion designer, graphic designer, interior designer, just have basically a flair for making things look good, or maybe super artsy and very creative into arts, painting, things of that nature. But when it comes, excuse me, when it comes to you and your co-workers, things like that, you're well received by your co-workers. You like to generally get on with people at work. You like a harmonious situation, quite cooperative, you know, when it comes to your managers and things like that. You're not really the person to step out of line. But one thing I will say here with people with this placement is you like to be seen as very diplomatic, law, order, etc. But you will stand up and say something if something needs to be said. If you really need to, if you really believe in it and you see some unjust or unfairness happening, then there is another side to you that can come out, that the fire that exists, and you can come out, that kind of direct bluntness that you don't usually use might actually present itself in that fashion. But you are kind of just, yeah, well received at work, really good at forming relationships. You may even want to work and again build with that partner. As I said, Venus does represent the relationships, and you've got Cancer in the 7th. You might be really building to build long term, basically, with others or with a significant other, and also a role that would allow you some balance. You know, it's the scales, it's Venus. Play hard, work hard. You want something that gives you a little bit of balance but allows you to build the empire that you know that you can. So I'm going to leave it there, guys. That was my video on Capricorn Rising. If there was anything that I said that you liked or could relate to, then drop me a like. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then please subscribe and come with me on my astro journey through YouTube. Help push me through the YouTube algorithm. And coming up in my next video, we're going to be talking all about the Aquarius rising. So I'll see you in my next video.